broadcast for helping parents of mentally ill children. And I just want to, first of all, just wait until my live stream comes on to certain platforms. This is going out to YouTube. It's also going out on Twitter. It's also on my Facebook business page, To Cry Dry Tear. And let's see, it's also on my Facebook group, Helping Parents of Mentally Ill Children. So we're just going to wait a few minutes to make sure that these all come online. And it looks like they're coming online nicely. So just wait a bit, because what happens is that when we come on live, then Facebook notifies everybody that we're kind of live. So before I get into the session, we'll just wait a couple minutes and just make sure everything looks like the platforms are working. They're all online, and we have some people showing up. So. Okay, so listen, I'm going to do an introduction then. So my name is Bill McPhee, and this is my Facebook group called Helping Parents of Mentally Ill Children. And basically, I was diagnosed with schizophrenia in 1987, and I was hospitalized 6 different times. I lived in 3 different group homes. I had a suicide attempt. And I spent 5 years on my parents' couch, basically doing nothing, or dealing with a deep, dark depression. However, through that, I also, for 23 years, I published a magazine called SZ Magazine, and it was a mental health magazine. And so I did that for 23 years. And now I'm retired. I consider myself retired. And basically what I do is I've written this book. I've written this book called To Cry Dry Tear, Bill McPhee's Journey of Hope and Recovery with Schizophrenia. And as a hobby, I promote and I sell that book. I also, I'll share with you in a little bit another aspect of what I'm doing as well. But I just wanted to introduce myself, and I also wanted to tell you I call this broadcast "Don't Panic" number 3. Usually I bring in a guest. We're live every Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and usually I bring in a guest to talk about helping parents of mentally ill children and to interview different guests. But lately, what I wanted to do is, instead of having a guest, because of this virus, I wanted to basically call these, this is our broadcast called Don't Panic number 3. And I just want to be here to be a support for people who may be scared, people who may not understand what's going on or the seriousness of the virus. But I just like to be a president. I just want to tell you not to panic. Please don't panic. I know there's a lot of things going on that are scary. In fact, the virus is very serious. And I just learned tonight, just before coming on this show doing live, is that Joe Diffie was a country recorder, country star. And he was only 61, and he got the virus, and he actually passed away today due to complications of the virus. And so Joe Diffie dead at age 61 from the virus. And so I was, before I came on the air here, I was listening to some of his recordings and a couple albums that he did and that. So we're gonna miss you, Joe, but you know, your music will live on. So yes, so it's very serious, but don't panic. And because the virus, and here in Canada, I live in Fort Erie, Ontario. It's just right across the Niagara River from Buffalo, New York. It's close to Niagara Falls, Canada, where I live, and I could actually see the Buffalo skyline. I can see it over throughout my window here. And so being so close to the border, I grew up on the border, and so I used to get a lot of U.S. news and that. So I follow U.S. news and I follow Canada news. And lately, every day, our Prime Minister would come on and update us regarding the virus and what's going on in Canada. And as well, in the U.S., I'd be watching, and I know that New York has a really big problem right now with a fast spread, and they seem to be overwhelmed. But Andrew Cuomo is their governor, and he comes on every morning, and I kind of liked his style. Like he would come on and he would just kind of talk and tell a story and really try to calm people, but give updates of numbers and what they're going to do. And I thought that was kind of, I kind of like that style a little bit. I kind of like that style. So I'm going to do that a little bit today. Instead of having some tips and talking about mental illness and talking about helping parents with mentally ill children, I just thought that I would just give you an update here of what's going on. And I want to just tell you that we're talking about panic number 3, so don't panic. And if you do panic, if you do need some support, feel free to go to my website and basically just email me. My email is billmcphee62@gmail.com, and McPhee is MacPhee. And so if you're kind of panicking, just give me an email. Be happy to correspond with you or whatever. So I just want you not to panic. No situation, whatever the situation is, no situation gets better when you panic. And so I'm just telling you not to panic. So basically, that's what is just talking about a little bit. So I talked a little bit about I'm following it closely in the U.S. and New York is under a big outbreak of the virus as well. So we're kind of, I don't call it a lockdown, but we're always talking about keeping our distance with this virus and unnecessary travel. Don't go out, whatever you have to do, stay home. And that's what I've been doing. I've been staying home pretty well, but I did the other day, last week I went and I did some grocery shopping for a couple of people who are doing isolation for 14 days. They traveled and I got their groceries for them and delivered them and at a safe distance and everything like that. And then I did that as well. This week I took a friend, Julie, I took her grocery shopping. I just waited in the parking lot and she went in the store and bought her groceries and just basically brought her home. And so that's very, very important. People can go out for groceries. You can't. So it's very important. And what else did I do going out for anything? And then just today I went out and took my daughter had to work. My daughter works for Canadian Tire, and I went and I took her to work and came home right away. But Canadian Tire is known as a necessary store to be open because it's hardware and people need certain things. So I did that, and I think my son went out to the golf course just to pick up his T4 slip for doing income tax. Both my daughter and my son Dwight and my daughter Hannah, this was the first year that they worked part-time, so they got T4s for income tax. So they're actually filing their income tax for their very first time here in Canada, which is interesting, which we'll see what happens with that, but that's good. So this is very serious, the virus. So obey what they tell you. Take it seriously. If you're supposed to be inside, and stay inside, and don't travel unless you need to. It's very, very important. Excuse me. So basically, when I went shopping, I learned about this. I was shocked about a few things that I learned. So when I talked to a friend, and I told him that I went shopping for other people, and I went to a place that's called Joe's Value Mart. So I did my shopping there for my friends, but then my friend Ron told me that he went shopping there, and they were discouraging people from taking cash. And I thought, what do you mean they're discouraging people from taking cash? They don't want cash? Because, as a business person, being in business, we used to have a saying, cash is king, right? Cash is king. But apparently, I said, Ron, why aren't they taking cash? And he said, you know what? He says, I guess that paper money and coin money is so dirty and so filled with germs and easily get germs on it that they're not accepting cash, or they're trying to not take cash. And my daughter, who works at Canadian Tire part-time, she said, yeah, they're encouraging people there not to use cash as well. And I'm thinking, wow, I've never heard that. That's kind of really wild. It's really wild. But when I was doing the grocery store for myself last week, all the stores, they had lines 6 feet apart where squares you stay in and everything like that. And my daughter worked today, and she said, well, people were kind of getting upset because the person behind another person weren't at 6 feet behind them, and they had to tell them to go behind. And people, you were hearing all these kind of stories and that. And I want to tell you, I want to take you and tell you, thanks, Anna, for going. She's a cashier. Thanks for showing up, going to work. And all you healthcare workers out there, God bless you. You're doing a fantastic job. I mean, to risk yourself of getting this virus, and you're on the front lines in hospitals and nursing homes and everything like that. It's amazing. It's amazing. My former wife works at a nursing home, and she said they're being very, very careful. They're have to sign in and sign out and do questions. And one time they were on outbreak, not for the virus but for flu. And just so you frontline workers, I'm sure you're tired. I'm sure you're scared, and it's very, very, very hard spot to be. But we thank you, we salute you, and we truly appreciate it, and we pray for you, and we just ask that you would be strong and be safe, and again, don't panic. If you take all the precautions, and hopefully, you come out of this on top of things. We don't have any, I think that in my region, the Niagara region, they said that there's about 25 people in the region who has the virus, and no deaths in our region yet. So, but the thing about this virus is that it spreads so fast. That's it's uncharacteristic because it spreads so fast. They say it spreads 3 times faster than the normal flu. So thank you, healthcare workers, and again, don't panic, people, but stay inside and listen to the authorities, and try not to be going out at all. What I want to talk to you a little bit. I might just tell you about some changes coming up to our website. With our website, which is billmcphee.ca, you can buy my book there, or it will take you to Amazon if you want to buy it from there, or anything like that. But what I'm changing is that for my book, Decried Right Here, I had it on my website so that that you could download the first chapter of the book for free, and that's still going to be the case. You'll still be able to download it for free. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to submit your email to me before you can download it, and that's for 2 reasons. One reason is so you can read the first chapter at no cost, and the second reason is that I want to capture your email so I can update you with our email. I want that email will be signed up to our newsletter, and the newsletter comes out will come out periodically, and it will tell you about future guests. It will talk to you about past guests. It will talk to you different interviews we've had, who they've been, and different things like that. So we're going to change that a little bit. And I'm going to talk about some books in a minute here, just because, when we have so much time on our hands, we want to talk a little bit about what to do, how can we pass the time in that. But another thing that I ordered a book from Elizabeth Anderson, who eventually I will have on this broadcast as well. And so let me just talk to you about that then. I just want to talk to you a bit about stuff to do. Reading. You know what? Reading is a great thing, but I got to tell you, I can remember when I was early on in my illness and I was on medication, different things like that, and because of the weather, because of the medication, the side effect I was taking, my eyes were blurry. I couldn't. My vision was blurry, so I really couldn't read. It was hard for me to read. But now, because of my side effect in medication that I take and everything like that, I don't have that problem. I can read now. But I just wanted to tell you, just as a tip, helping parents of mentally ill children, what can be very, very good if you can't read, if you can't see very well, or your vision is blurry. There's all kinds of audio books out there. There's audio books that you can find, and you can listen to a book instead of basically reading it and different things like that, reading it physically. And a lot of times people like reading or like listening to audio books because they can do it while they're lying down or maybe right before they fall asleep or whatever. And it's just a great way of doing that. I know a lot of truck drivers will do courses in the truck and listen to programs and everything like that as well. And you know what? Mentioning the truck drivers, let's say, hey, kudos to you as well. You're doing a great job. From our church, I have a friend, Malcolm. Hey, Malcolm's a truck driver. Salute you, Malcolm. Thank you for your service, bringing all those well-needed groceries to our grocery shelves, to our grocery stores, and that. But I just want to tell you, you probably have a lot of time on your hands, and reading can be a great thing. Reading, you can always pick up my book. It's a quick read. You can probably do it in 2 settings at 3 hours. But that's an important book. And I want to tell you another book that I read is from a friend of mine, and I'll have her on the broadcast sometime once we get back to normal and that. But Bethany Yazzer wrote this book called Mind Estranged. And Bethany, she was homeless for 4 years. She was homeless for 4 years and eventually got help, and she's doing fantastic today. She's the president of an organization. It's called Cures, and it's a mental health organization, and she's the president of that. She's doing a wonderful job, and her life is back on track. And great read, great story. I also read a book. I ordered it on Amazon, and I got a book. It's called Straight Talk, about living with a severe mental illness. Straight Talk, and that was by a friend of mine, Daryl Herman, and Daryl wrote that book. He was actually, his story, he was in the Army, and he was working with nuclear weapons and in the nuclear department. And he's kind of funny where he's right, and he kind of says, well, having schizophrenia and being in the nuclear department in the military, it kind of don't mix. So he has a little humor in there. I found that humorous. Maybe some people don't. I mean, I like to think that I have a good sense of humor, but some people might think differently. I mean, my sense of humor is so good that my church pays me for not telling jokes. But anyways, yeah, so there's that part, and I'm just here being isolated and that, not alone being on the computer. And that, I'm reading this book here. It's called Agents of Babylon, and it's by Dr. David Jeremiah, and it's about the book of Daniel, and it's one of my favorite books of the Bible, Daniel. It's an amazing book. Some of the things that is done in there is just so impressive, and I just find it fascinating. So yeah, so you can do that. So anyways, I think I covered. I don't think I told the one other thing about my website that what I'm going to change is that I'm going to add a page to it, and I'm going to do. I tell you, I'm semi-retired. I'm kind of retired, but I do sell my book as a hobby, and I haven't spoken publicly for probably since maybe 2016, 2017. I took a break from the mental health field a bit, and Elizabeth Anderson, she kind of got my second wind because she goes out speaking and different things like that. I'm thinking, well, maybe I'll get back into it. Maybe I'll do. So what I want to do is I'm gonna have a speaking page on my website in the near future. But what I want to do is I want to speak at churches. I want to speak at churches and at Christian conferences. I spent 23 years out speaking in North America to secular groups or the general mental health population. But I want to get invited to churches and give my testimony. And basically what a testimony means is basically what Christ has done in your life. And I got to tell you, I have about 5 different stories where things happened to me that you would say, absolutely, God was right there. God did that kind of thing. And they're almost miraculous, but I can pick out 5 points, 5 different things in my life where God definitely showed up and was amazing. And I want to tell that story. I want to tell my testimony in those 5 stories there. These are the kind of things you can't talk about when you're out speaking to general mental health and in the secular field and that, because they'll call you, oh, he's a Bible banger, or he's whatever they want to say to it, Christianity, and he's a Christian and all that. So you know what? I don't want to go get beat up by the general mental health field, so I'm going to give my support and speak to churches. If you're a church and you want to bring me out as a speaker, I charge no fee for that. I just charge expenses. So if you have to fly me somewhere, or if I have to drive, or if I have to stay in hotels, different things like that, like I did many years ago, I expect to be compensated for my expenses only. But I would love to come out to your church and give you my testimony. Another thing with these times, because I know that our economy, both in our North American economy, or really the whole world economy, is shut down. So I don't want to charge, that's for sure, but I just want to give you a hint in that you can actually make it into a fundraiser for your church or for your organization as well. And that's fine as long as you just pay my expenses, that's fine. So I just wanted to share you on that. And if you want to come on the broadcast here in the future, like I say, I'm doing this panic series. I just want to tell people not to panic, and I don't want to focus on a guest yet. But we're still lining up for in the future, because I will bring on guests periodically again. If you want to be a guest on helping parents with mentally ill children, you can go to my website. You can email me. You can fill out the contact form. Whatever, you can find me on Facebook, you can find me on Twitter, you can find me on Instagram, and you can find me on LinkedIn. We're just beefing up all these social media platforms and everything like that. Okay, folks, according to my timer, I've been on here for 23 minutes, and I'm going to end. And I'm just going to end here and say thank you for tuning in. Share this broadcast. Sign up for the first chapter of my book. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Facebook. Follow me on YouTube. Just do all that kind of stuff. And we'll be back next Sunday night with probably a Panic 4, because I don't think that the virus will be under control by next week. So we'll do that, and we'll do these panicking sessions. And again, if you need a little support, if you're scared, if you need some comfort, just email me. I'll be glad to chat with you, even be glad to do a Zoom or a Skype with you or whatever. And so just be good, listen to the authorities, keep safe, keep sane in the house and everything like that. And I'll say bye for now, and may God bless you. Have a great night.